The wind was cold that night. Commander Alex stood near the fire, watching the flames dance. Behind him, the forest was quiet. Too quiet. He had been stuck on this alien planet for almost a month. His ship had crashed during a scouting mission, and help had not come. He built a small shelter, found clean water, hunted animals, and waited. Then one night, everything changed. He heard the sound of something crashing nearby. Smoke rose over the trees the next morning. Alex followed the trail, rifle ready, boots. Silent on the wet ground, he found a broken alien escape pod. Inside it, there was one survivor, a young alien woman, badly injured. Her skin was light violet, her eyes large and glowing softly. She looked up at him and whispered in fear, "Please, don't kill me." Alex lowered his gun, surprised. "I'm not your enemy," he said, gently. She tried to stand but fell, her body weak and shaking, without thinking. Alex lifted her and carried her back to his shelter. She was light, almost weightless, like her bones were hollow. For the next 3 days he didn't speak much. He gave her water, food, and cleaned her wounds. Her name was Kalina, and she came from a species that once fought humans. But she said she was not a soldier, she was a transport pilot. "I was escaping from my own people," she said slowly. Alex didn't ask more, not yet. She slept close to the fire every night, far from him, but always watching. As the days passed, she helped him with small things, collecting berries, starting fires, sharpening tools. She never asked about leaving. One night, she sat close to him by the fire, her eyes staring at the stars. "It's quiet here," she said softly. "I almost forgot what peace feels like." Alex nodded. "It's not so bad if you forget you're stuck." She smiled a little, then looked down at her hands. "I didn't think you'd keep me alive," she whispered. "Your kind usually doesn't." "I don't like killing," he said, "even in war." Kalina looked at him, her face unreadable, then nodded. The silence between them grew warmer over the next week. She started asking questions about Earth, about humans, about him. One evening, while cooking, she asked, "Do humans bond with others like we do?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Kalina hesitated, then said, "When one of us is saved from death, our bodies react. We become drawn to the one who saved us." Alex didn't answer, thinking it was just alien biology, but something in her voice made his heart beat faster. Later that night, he saw her staring at him from the edge of the firelight. Her eyes were glowing again, but this time softer, warmer. He looked away, confused, unsure. Every morning after that, Kalina greeted him first, smiled more, stood closer. One night, when the wind howled hard outside, she touched his hand without a word. He didn't move, but he didn't pull away either. Kalina began leaving her bedroll closer to his inch by inch. Every night, Alex noticed, but said nothing. Then, on the 32nd night, something changed. Kalina stood outside the shelter, her arms folded over her chest, looking up at the stars again. Her voice broke the silence. "It's been over a month, human." Alex turned, surprised. "Yeah, I know," he said. She looked at him, her face serious, her eyes deep and filled with something he didn't understand. Then she said nothing more, and walked back inside the shelter. Alex stood alone outside for a long time, confused. He didn't know what she wanted, or what she was feeling, but something told him this was only the beginning. Something was building between them, slow and quiet like the fire in his chest. And deep down, he was afraid of what might happen next. But he also knew he didn't want her to leave anymore. Not now, not ever. The forest stayed quiet, but the silence was no longer empty. It was filled with something warm, something waiting, something neither of them could ignore for much longer. The mornings were quiet, but something had changed. Alex noticed her eyes more often now. Kalina's gaze followed him wherever he moved. When he collected wood, she watched from the edge of the trees. When he cleaned weapons, she sat nearby, pretending to fix her clothes. But her eyes never left him. He tried to act normal, tried to focus on survival tasks. But her presence was always there, like a warm breath on his neck. One morning, as he sharpened his blade, Kalina sat beside him, closer than usual. "Why do you never ask about me?" she said softly. Alex looked at her, surprised. "I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." Kalina tilted her head. "Most humans ask too many questions." He smiled a little. "I'm not like most humans." She looked at him for a long time, then whispered, "I know, that day." She walked beside him instead of behind him. When they crossed the river, she offered her hand. Her fingers wrapped around his firmly, and she didn't let go. Even after they reached the other side, at night, Kalina cooked food using his recipes, burning it slightly but proud. She served him first, smiling shyly. "I'm learning." She sighed. Alex nodded. "You're doing fine." Her smile widened, her eyes glowing gently under the firelight. Later, as they sat beside the fire, she leaned a little closer. "Can I ask you something strange?" she said. "Go ahead," he replied. "Do humans feel a pull toward others like gravity?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "You mean attraction?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but more, something deeper." Alex didn't answer at first, then said, "Sometimes yes, when there's a real connection." Kalina looked down, playing with a thread on her sleeve. "My people call it soul recognition," she whispered, "when two lives link after danger." Alex's heart beat a little faster, but he said nothing. That night, as he lay down on his bedroll, he noticed something. Kalina had moved hers right beside his. They weren't touching, but only a hand's width apart. He stared at the ceiling of the shelter, eyes wide open, mind racing. In the middle of the night, he felt her shift closer. Just an inch. He didn't move, his breath slow and careful. The next day, Kalina followed him again, closer, quieter, almost like a shadow. When he stopped, she stopped. When he knelt, she knelt beside him. She didn't speak much, but her eyes spoke volumes. As they sat to rest, Kalina leaned her head on his shoulder. Alex froze, unsure what to do. But then, he relaxed and let her stay. She closed her eyes and smiled, saying nothing. That night, the wind was cold again. Kalina stood outside the shelter, looking up at the stars, her robe fluttering. Alex stepped beside her. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't look at him, just said, "I dream of you sometimes." His throat went dry. "What kind of dreams?" Kalina turned slowly, her glowing eyes soft and full of emotion. "You saving me," she whispered, "but in the dream, I'm not afraid. I'm yours." Alex looked away, heart pounding. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. Kalina stepped closer, her voice like a song in the wind. "Say nothing," she said. "Just don't reject me." He looked at her again, and for a second, he didn't see an alien. He saw someone lonely, strong, and reaching out. She reached up and touched his face gently, then pulled back. "I'll sleep early tonight," she said, walking inside. Alex stood frozen, mind spinning. He didn't know if this was right or dangerous or both, but deep inside, he knew the truth. He didn't want her to stop. He didn't want her to pull away anymore. Kalina had come into his world like a storm, quiet but powerful, and now she was becoming part of his every breath. As he entered the shelter, he saw her lying down already, her back turned, but her bedroll was touching his now fully. She didn't speak, didn't move, but he knew she was awake. He lay beside her, heart racing. He didn't touch her, but the space between them had vanished, just like the wall he once built around his heart. The air around them was no longer the same. Even during quiet tasks, there was a tension in the air, soft but heavy. Kalina no longer kept her distance. She walked so close to Alex now that her shoulder would sometimes touch his. She did not speak much, but her silence said many things. Alex felt her presence everywhere. When he cooked, she stood beside him, handing tools, smiling without a word. When he repaired the water filters, she held the parts, brushing against him on purpose, or maybe not. One morning, as he reached for a rope, her hand touched his. Their fingers stayed together for a second. Longer than needed, neither of them pulled away quickly that evening. Dark clouds gathered above the forest. A storm was coming. Alex secured everything and checked the shelter again. Kalina followed him quietly, her hair tied back, her face calm. But her eyes were watching his every move. Thunder rolled over the trees, and rain began to fall hard. Cold drops slapped the roof as they both entered the tent. Inside, the space was small and dry. Alex lit a lantern and sat down. Wiping his hands, Kalina entered next, soaked from the rain, her robe clinging to her skin. She shivered and stood near the lantern, her eyes fixed on him. Alex handed her a towel. "You're going to freeze." She took it slowly, but didn't dry herself right away. Do humans always avoid things they don't understand? She asked, her voice low. He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Kalina sat down across from him, the wet robe sticking to her curves. She leaned forward slightly, eyes glowing. "You know what's happening between us," she whispered. "But you ignore it." Alex swallowed hard, unsure what to say. "It's not that simple," he replied. "We're different." Kalina smiled sadly. "Different bodies, yes, but feelings?" "No." The storm roared outside, wind shaking the tent walls inside. The silence between them was louder than thunder. Kalina leaned back, her eyes searching his. "Am I not beautiful to your eyes?" she asked, voice soft like a song. Alex blinked, surprised. "You are, but what?" She interrupted. "You saved me, gave me food, let me stay, but won't touch me. Why?" He looked down, guilt washing over him. "I don't want to hurt you," he said slowly. "I don't want you to feel used." Kalina moved closer, her hand reaching for his. "I'm not a child, Alex," she whispered. "My kind only bonds once in a lifetime." Her fingers touched his face gently. "When I look at you, I feel my heart burn," she said. "My body knows I belong to you." Alex stood up suddenly, his breath shaky. "We should rest," he said quickly, turning away. Kalina said nothing more, but the pain in her eyes was clear. That night, they lay down side by side, not touching, but close. The fire inside the tent crackled low, giving soft warmth. Alex closed his eyes, but his thoughts were loud. He remembered her words, the way she looked at him, the soft sadness in her voice. Kalina didn't speak or move, but he knew she was awake. Hours passed, and the rain finally slowed. Just before sunrise, he felt something. Kalina had turned toward him, her hand resting near his arm. She didn't touch him directly, but she was reaching, quietly. Alex kept still, his heart beating fast. Part of him wanted to reach back, to hold her close. Another part feared what might happen if he did. Morning came, gray and cold. Alex stepped outside and took a deep breath. Kalina followed a few minutes later, wearing only a simple wrap. She looked tired, not from lack of sleep, but from waiting. "Is it me?" she asked softly. "Am I not enough?" Alex turned sharply. "No, it's not that." "Then what is it?" she said, her voice shaking. "Do I have to beg you?" He looked at her, really looked at her. And in that moment, he realized something dangerous, something powerful. He didn't want her to stop. He didn't want her to ask again, because his answer might not be no this time. But he still wasn't ready. He turned and walked to the forest, pretending to gather supplies. Kalina stood still, staring after him, her hands clenched, her eyes wet. The bond between them had grown stronger, and soon, something would have to break his silence, or her heart. The sun went down, but the tension stayed. Alex moved around the camp, doing simple things, cleaning tools, boiling water, cutting wood, but his mind was not calm. Every time he looked at Kalina, he saw her words again, felt the pain in her voice. "Do I have to beg you?" She had said it softly, but it echoed in his head like thunder. Kalina did not speak to him all day. She stayed near the stream, quiet and still. She sat on a rock for hours, letting her feet touch the cold water, her eyes lost in the distance. Alex wanted to go to her, to say something, but what could he say? He was afraid, not of her, but of his own heart, when the stars came out. She still hadn't returned to the shelter. Alex walked toward the stream, holding a small lantern. He found her there, sitting in the dark, her back to him. He spoke gently. "Kalina, it's cold. Come inside." She didn't move, only said, "You make me feel unwanted." Alex stepped closer. "That's not true. Then what is true?" she asked, her voice soft but full of pain. "Because all I feel is rejection." Alex sat beside her, the stream flowing quietly. "I'm confused," he admitted. "You are different, and I didn't know how to handle it." Kalina turned, her face toward him, her eyes glowing in the lantern light. "I told you before," she whispered. "My people form a bond when we are saved from death. But it's more than that for me." She continued, "I feel safe with you. I feel alive." He looked into her eyes, and for the first time, he didn't look away. She stood slowly, the water dripping from her feet. "I waited," she said. "I gave you time. I gave you space." She reached for the knot of her robe. "But I don't know what more I can give without losing myself." Alex's eyes widened as she let the robe fall to the grass. Her skin glowed slightly in the night, not just from light, but from something deeper. She was trembling, but not from cold. She whispered, "It's been over a month, human. Must I beg you to take me?" Alex stood quickly, stepping back. "Kalina, this isn't right." She looked down, her voice breaking. "Why? Is it because I'm not human?" "No," he said, his voice full of pain. "Because I don't want you to think this is just physical." Kalina looked up, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Then tell me what it is," she asked. "Because I'm breaking, Alex. I feel like I'm dying without this bond." He took a deep breath, trying to fight the emotions. "In his chest, Kalina," he said. "I feel it too, every day. But I don't want to take you because I'm lonely or desperate. I want to be sure," he added, "that this is real and not something forced by biology." Kalina stepped close again, her voice low. "It started with biology, yes, but now it's something else. When I think of you, I don't feel survival. I feel love." Alex froze, the word hitting him harder than anything else. Love. The silence between them felt like forever. Then he took off his jacket and gently placed it over her shoulders. She looked surprised, but didn't stop him. "I'm not ready," he said, "but I want to try." Her lips trembled, and she nodded slowly. Alex led her back to the shelter, one hand gently holding hers. Inside, the fire was still warm, and they sat beside it, wrapped in the same blanket. Kalina leaned against him, her head resting on his chest. She didn't say a word, but her body was calm now. Alex looked down at her and whispered, "I won't let you break." She smiled through tired eyes and said, "Then I'll wait. Because now I believe you will come to me when your heart is ready." They sat like that for a long time, letting the silence speak, and for the first time, the air felt safe again, not heavy. It wasn't passion that brought them together that night, but something more. It was understanding. It was patience. It was the beginning of something true, and in the glow of that quiet fire, the bond between them deepened, not by force, but by choice. The next morning came slow and quiet. Rain had stopped, and the forest was full of mist. Birds called softly from the trees, but inside the shelter, no one moved. Alex opened his eyes and found Kalina still resting against him. Her face was peaceful, her breath slow and warm. She had not left his side the whole night, and he had not wanted her to. Something had changed between them. But it didn't need words. When Kalina woke up, she didn't speak either. She only looked into his eyes and gave him a soft smile. It was not the smile of victory, but of peace. Alex stood and started the morning routine, collecting water and checking traps. Kalina followed, but not like before. She didn't try to get his attention anymore. She didn't touch his hand or ask hard questions. She just stayed close, like a shadow that made him feel calm. Not afraid later, she cleaned the shelter while Alex sharpened tools. She hummed a soft tune, something strange but beautiful. When he looked at her, she smiled and said, "It's a song from my home. For healing." Alex nodded, listening, letting the melody sink into his chest. That day passed with no pressure, no confusion, no sadness, only silence that felt warm and full, like a promise not yet spoken. That night, they sat near the fire again. Sharing the same blanket, Kalina rested her head on his shoulder, and Alex gently placed his hand over hers. Neither spoke, but both knew they were no longer alone. Kalina whispered after a long time, "I feel whole when I'm beside you." Alex didn't know what to say, so he just squeezed her hand softly. She smiled and closed her eyes, resting quietly. The fire crackled gently as the stars glowed above the shelter's small roof. Even the wind had softened, as if the forest knew peace had come. In the middle of the night, Alex woke up, feeling Kalina's heartbeat close to his. She was cold, her skin trembling. He pulled her closer and wrapped both blankets around them. She sighed in her sleep, relaxing into his arms. He felt her breath on his neck, soft and trusting. He stayed awake a little longer, thinking about everything. He didn't understand alien customs or bonding instincts, but he understood her pain, her kindness, her fear of being unwanted, and now, he also understood his own heart. He didn't want her because she was near, or because she was beautiful. He wanted her because she made him feel human again, not a soldier, not a survivor, just a man who had found someone worth protecting. When morning came again, Kalina made breakfast while Alex washed his face by the stream. She served the food with a smile and said, "No poison, I promise." Alex chuckled. "That's good to know." They ate together quietly, the sun finally shining through the trees. Kalina looked brighter now, stronger. Her movements were full of energy, her laughter soft but true. As they worked together through the day, they moved like one, no commands, no orders, just understanding. Alex built new tools while Kalina crafted simple decorations from leaves and small bones. When he asked what they were for, she said, "For beauty." "Your camp looks sad." He laughed, and she smiled wider than he had ever seen. That evening, as they walked together along the riverbank, Kalina stopped. "Alex," she said gently, "thank you for not touching me when I begged." He turned to her, confused. "But I thought," she placed a finger on his lips, "you gave me dignity, not pity. I love you for that," she whispered, her voice shaking with emotion. Alex was quiet, but then he said something that surprised even him. "I didn't touch you because I didn't want to lose you." Kalina's eyes filled with tears, and she stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him. She whispered into his chest, "Then I'll wait. As long as you need." They stood by the river as the sky turned gold. The bond between them no longer needed to be forced. It had grown naturally through pain, kindness, patience, and trust. Now they had something stronger than instinct. They had something real, something chosen. The next few days were calm. Alex and Kalina had fallen into a rhythm. They worked together, cooked together, and sat near the fire together every evening. There were no more awkward silences, no more heavy looks, only peace, soft words, and a warmth that lived quietly between them. Alex had even started building a stronger roof for the shelter. Kalina helped him carry the wood, her laughter light as the wind. She was happy, truly happy, and it showed in every step. But happiness never stays forever. One afternoon, while Kalina was washing clothes near the river, she froze. Her eyes narrowed, her ears twitched. She stood up quickly and looked at the sky. Something was wrong. Alex noticed too. A strange hum filled the air, low and steady. He dropped his tools and stepped outside, eyes scanning the trees. Then he saw 3 lights in the sky, slowly coming down ships. Kalina ran back to the shelter, panic on her face. "They found me," she whispered, her hands shaking. "Who?" Alex asked, already grabbing his rifle. "My people," she said. "The ones I escaped from. They're coming for me." Alex's jaw tightened. "Then we won't let them take you." Kalina grabbed a small device from her pack, a glowing disc she had never shown before. "I hoped I would never need this," she said, pressing it. A soft shield shimmered around the shelter, almost invisible. "It'll hold for a short time," she said, "but not long." The ships landed beyond the trees, and shadows moved through the forest. Heavy boots, strange voices, cold commands. Kalina grabbed Alex's arm, her eyes full of fear. "They will say I'm a traitor, a broken bondmate. Unfit to live," she said. "They don't understand love." "Only orders." Alex held her close. "Then let them come. They'll learn what happens when they try to take what's mine." Kalina looked up at him, shocked, then slowly smiled. "You finally said it," she whispered. "I'm yours." The soldiers appeared at the edge of the camp, weapons ready, armor shining. One of them stepped forward, his voice loud. "Return the female human. She is marked for correction." Alex raised his rifle. "She's staying," he said. "And you're leaving," the soldier laughed. "You think you can stop us?" Kalina stepped forward, her voice calm but cold. "You came for a weak girl," she said. "But I'm not her anymore." She threw the small disc onto the ground, and a pulse of energy knocked the front line of soldiers backward. Alex stared in shock. "What was that?" Kalina answered, "Old tech forbiddance, hidden in my ship." The shield around the shelter dropped, and now it was open battle. The enemy fired. Alex returned fire. The forest lit up with blasts of color and light. Kalina moved like a shadow. Fast and graceful, she grabbed a fallen enemy weapon and used it without mercy. Alex was trained, but even he was surprised. Kalina fought like she had been hiding her power for years. Within minutes, the enemy was retreating, dragging their wounded, their leader shouting, "This isn't over." Kalina stood in front of the shelter, her body glowing, her eyes fierce. "Yes, it is," she said. "I'm not yours anymore." As the ships lifted off, Alex lowered his rifle. Still catching his breath, Kalina walked back to him slowly. Her steps tired now. He caught her before she fell, holding her gently. "You were amazing," he whispered. She smiled weakly. "I had to protect what I love." He looked into her eyes. "You saved me too." That night, there was no fire, no words, only the sound of the wind and two hearts beating close. Kalina rested in his arms, her strength gone but her spirit calm. She had faced her past, and this time she didn't run. Alex looked up at the stars, whispering a promise to himself. No matter who came next, she would never face them alone. Morning came with golden light and soft winds. Birds sang again, and the forest no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a home. Alex opened his eyes and saw Kalina still asleep beside him. Her head rested gently on his chest, her breath soft and even. She looked peaceful now, her face no longer tense. He brushed a strand of her hair away and smiled. Last night had changed everything. She had protected him, fought for him, and proved her love without saying a single word. He now understood what her bond truly meant. It was not just about instincts or survival, it was about choice. When Kalina opened her eyes, she saw him staring. She smiled shyly and whispered, "I thought maybe you would run." Alex chuckled. "I almost did, but then I remembered I'm not afraid anymore." She sat up slowly and wrapped his old jacket around her shoulders. It was too big for her, but she liked it. "It smells like you," she said with a soft grin. They sat beside the fire and shared a simple breakfast. This time, Kalina didn't sit across from him. She sat beside him, shoulder to shoulder. She leaned her head on him again and whispered, "So what now, human?" Alex thought for a moment, then said, "We rebuild, we stay strong, and we make this place a real home." She nodded. "And what about the bond?" He looked at her seriously. "I accept it." Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "You don't know what that means to me," she said, her voice shaking. "It means I'm yours too," Alex replied, gently holding her hand. Kalina looked down at their joined hands, then back into his eyes. "Then I will never leave your side," she said. "Not in this life, not in the next." The next few days were calm again, but now everything felt different. They worked as one, laughed more, spoke freely, and shared everything. Kalina wore his old jacket almost every day. Even when it was warm, she called it armor of the heart, and it made her feel safe. Alex built a second room onto their shelter, not because they needed space, but because they were planning for the future. Sometimes, Kalina would sing while cooking or painting the walls with bright-colored berry juice. She added strange symbol stories from her people, now mixed with human ones. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Kalina said, "Do you think they'll come back?" Alex nodded slowly. "Maybe, but this time we'll be ready." She touched the small weapon she now carried on her hip and smiled. "Good, because I won't let anyone take what's mine." He laughed. "That makes two of us," as stars filled the night sky. Kalina leaned closer and whispered, "Do you remember the first time I asked you?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "Asked me what?" She blushed slightly and said, "If I had to beg you." He laughed softly, then looked into her eyes. "You don't have to beg anymore." He said, "You never did." She touched his face gently and said, "But I wanted you to see me, not as an alien, not as a bondmate, but as a woman who chose you." "I see you now," Alex said, "and I choose you too." They kissed under the stars, not rushed, not wild, but full of quiet truth. That night, they lay together in the shelter, no longer two strangers from different worlds, but one soul, joined by choice, trust, and love. The forest around them was no longer wild and cold. It was home. In the days that followed, they kept building, kept laughing, and kept loving. Kalina started teaching Alex her language, one word at a time, and he taught her how to fish with a line. Every new day was another thread in the life they now shared. And though the stars above them still held danger and mystery, they no longer felt alone beneath them, because they had each other, forever.